Jakes, he did a sermon on independent Black women, and let's hear what he has to say.
If Adam had not allowed Eve to pour into him, sin would have never come into the world. Sin came into the world because Adam broke the order. We were not designed to receive from women. Your self-esteem is compromised when you have to ask your wife for lunch money. I'm not saying you got to be rich. I'm not saying you got to be famous. I'm saying that you have got to be the one who pours in, not the one who takes out. When Adam started eating out of his wife's hand, sin came in because the divine order was broken. This breaks all sociological order of the culture we're living in now, because we are raising up women to be men. And you are not applauded for your femininity. You are applauded in the contemporary society by how tough, rough, nasty, mean, aggressive, hateful, possessive you are, and you are climbing the corporate ladder, but we are losing our families. I know you can buy your own car. I know you can buy your own house. But until you create a need that I can pour into, I have no place in your life. So stop coming home bragging to me about how much you don't need me and wonder why I shy away. Oh, y'all ain't gonna talk back to me this morning. The conversation has become, let's prove to the men how dispensable they are. And it is born out of pain because we hurt you and betrayed you and lied to you and cheated to you. And you became like you became out of pain. Oh, Lord. I told you they wasn't going to like this, Jesus.
Wow. And I had to find the entire clip because the viral video just starts out with him calling Black women mean and aggressive and masculine. And I find it interesting how the first and last part where he was addressing what the men need to do was cut off. And all of the viral clips, the beginning was not there. Did y'all notice that? So whoever clipped it, and I feel this was done on purpose, not only to trigger Black women, but to avoid accountability for Black men. Because if the first part of the video is what had went viral, I'm quite sure Black men would have taken a little bit more of an issue with it. And they would have started arguing about how they don't need to provide and they don't feel emasculated if the woman pays and all this stuff, right? But see, this is the internet. We don't actually do our due diligence and search for the information ourselves, and I'm guilty of that too. I don't always search for everything, right? Now, when it comes to what he said though, y'all know I do adhere to traditional gender roles and I date traditionally masculine men who make significantly more money than me, who don't mind footing the bill, and I prefer to take the traditionally feminine role in the relationship. It's always been very natural for me to do that and the most comfortable for me to do that. I don't feel forced or restricted. I've never felt like I had no agency in my relationships. That's me. That's how I feel comfortable. I can't speak for other women. I am most attracted to traditionally masculine men. So I agree with his idea of gender roles. However, my issue with men like TD Jakes and other men who are like this is how they don't spend enough time on Black men, not only just not fulfilling their role as traditionally masculine men, but having no real desire to do so. Right? Because let's just be honest here, Black men don't want to be traditional. Most of them don't. While they don't want to be traditional, they're online, especially being very entitled, demanding traditionally feminine women when they're not traditional men. And if you want Black women to be more traditionally oriented, instead of preaching sermons and taking, Black women's independent corporate job money that makes them all rough, tough, and mean and masculine, how about you talk more about how Black men encourage Black women to be masculine, and how Black men praise us for being independent and ride or die chicks, and how Black men are online shaming Black women for wanting provider men. Because, one minute, Black men are really confusing. One minute they want these trad wives, the next they want Wakandan warriors. It just depends on the situation. One minute is, oh, we want you to be a traditional housewife, and the next minute it's, what do you bring to the table? And then when you actually bring something to the table, they're like, oh, that's too much. Didn't Kevin Samuels even say that men are the prize? They want to be spoiled. Women should buy them gifts and this, that, and the third. You got to pay the bills. I mean, sometimes Kevin said it and sometimes he didn't, right? But most men of the manosphere, they like, hey, most women got to work these days. Y'all gotta bring something to the table. So it's like Black men, they want it both ways. And so when I listen to this kind of stuff, I'm like, how about TD Jakes start doing Black manhood boot camps for Black men? How about that instead of this? The same thing with these manosphere men. Men like Kevin Samuels, Cam Newton, all the rest of them. Instead of doing actual manhood training and actual manhood activities, they're online talking about hair weave and whether or not a Black woman is average at best. That's what they're online talking about. And see, that's why to me, it's not much difference between TD Jakes and somebody like Kevin Samuels, because all they do is talk. That's all they do. They talk about manhood, talk about traditionalism. There's no action to actually back it up. Traditional men are action oriented. They act more than they talk. And anybody who's dated high value men or high earning men, you know that. They don't have a lot of time for a lot of talking. And I think TD Jakes, I think he's definitely going to start, because a lot of people are comparing him to Kevin Samuels and the manosphere. They're like, oh, TD Jakes he's about to start sounding like the manosphere. He's going to try to become the next Kevin Samuels. And I was like, he just might. I think he will start incorporating more manosphere talking points in his sermons so he can keep talking to get Black women's money, because Black women, we be flocking. We flock to these men who drag other Black women. That's how Kevin Samuels got to over 1 million followers. So, hey, he's doing what's going to work. Somebody in the chat pointed out that most of the people in the audience you heard were Black women. Clapping and like, yeah, say that. We get moved by word salad. So they know what to do. They know they could just get up there and talk a good game and not really have to do shit, because Black women are going to keep coming, keep contributing, keep putting money in that collection plate. So no, they can't actually train Black men or preach to them, because they know Black men ain't about to pay for that. They know Black men ain't about to pay for no manhood boot camp, because most of them don't want to be men. They don't want to be traditional. See, these Black pimp preachers, they talk a big game. But they ain't really about that life, y'all. They're not. And the men know it, which is why they cut the first part of this clip off. That's why they did it. And another thing I don't like about TD Jakes' sermon is how I felt. Did anybody else feel like he handled the men with kid gloves? Notice how when he talked about the men, what did he say? He said the women are not designed to receive from a man. Your self-esteem is compromised when you have to ask a woman for lunch money. And then when he gets to the women, he starts going in. He's like, you're applauded for being mean, nasty, hateful, aggressive, rough, tough. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Hold on, TD Jakes. You wasn't just going all in like that on the men, though. But he'll never say about the men, you've been conquered, so you're weak, you're soft, you're effeminate, you're dependent, you ain't got no money, you're living off a woman. Can we hear you say that, TD Jakes, about the men? I mean, we need the same energy. bro. Like, can we get the same energy that you have for the women? You know what I'm saying? It's like, because that would be the equivalent, y'all. If he was to say y'all been weak, conquered, or whatever, like that's the equivalent to what he said about women. The adjectives, the descriptors were completely different for women. Completely different. The energy was totally different. And see, that's where these men lose me. It's like, even if I agree with some of what they say, it's like, don't half-ass it when it comes to describing how men contribute to the role reversal. Have that same energy. But that just goes to show you that they will always they will get up here and paint this facade of fair and balancedness, but in reality they're much more, yeah, they do stay on code, exactly. In reality, they're much more critical and harsh on Black women, and then they wonder why we get so defensive. And then notice when he described how Black women were behaving like men, notice the terms that he used: mean, nasty, hateful. So he's basically saying that's how men behave, right? So he's telling on himself. He's describing how men behave. And look, I know to a certain extent, to physically build and maintain society, men have to be, and to be protectors and providers and all that stuff, men have to have some of those unflattering qualities that women don't particularly care for. But men, and especially Black men, they are very hateful and nasty. And the problem is they're hateful, nasty, entitled, and non-traditional, and still expecting Black women to follow this quote unquote divine order. You got to pick a struggle. Like, if you're going to be, and I'm not saying that money gives you a right to be mean and nasty and hateful all the time or anything like that, but to protect, to go into fight mode, to protect your family, sometimes you do have to be mean, aggressive, tough, rough, nasty, masculine, whatever he said, nasty, all that shit. You got to be all of that, right? Sometimes. Okay? So I'm not trying to completely strip men of that. Don't get me wrong, because you need to be that way sometimes, right? But you can't be that and be entitled and be dusty and be asking for 50-50 and, be this fake traditional man up here talking about how you want a woman to have this and that and be submissive, and you not really doing shit. You're not bringing shit to the table. That's when I have a problem. So let's talk about this next clip. And this is from another preacher. And this also highlights the problem with these faux traditional, faux masculine Black men. So let's listen to what he says here.
The mistake women are making is when you're looking for a perfect guy, no issues with them. He's wonderful. He's dark and handsome, tall, white and handsome, whatever colors you like. He has to have a job. He has to have a car. He has to have a house. He has to have money in the bank. He has to have muscles or things that are on your checklist. It's all wonderful. I get that, because you're looking for a perfect man. And I'm telling you, this is where you're going to be disappointed. Because, ladies, you don't really want a man to come in your life who's already great. That's very dangerous. Because when the man is already great, he has everything. He doesn't need you. That's why he will abuse you. You need a man who desperately sees you as a helper, sees you that you can pull the greatness out of him, sees you as a partner who will build an empire. That's the kind of man you want.
So we go from TD Jakes talking about how the man needs to run the show and pay the bills, to this Negro here talking about how Black women need to build up a man. Okay. Now, I agree that most women won't meet a man that checks off every box on the checklist. I've talked about that before. But the whole thing he said about men who come into your life with everything will abuse you because they don't need you, that is struggle, dusty babble. And this is what these preachers are spreading to Black women. These preachers are encouraging Black women to engage in struggle love. This is what TD Jakes is not saying. These are the messages that we're getting that turn us into these rough, tough, masculine, mean, nasty, aggressive. That's how we turn into that. Because you want a Betty the Builder. That's why. So, two church dudes, two preachers, conflicting, opposing messages, right? This shit is confusing. This is why Black women are confused. And we know this is not true because we see Black women getting abused by men who don't have shit. Those are the ones who abuse Black women the most, the ones that don't have shit. So what do you mean if he has everything, he will abuse you? What? What are you talking about? Here this man is encouraging a congregation of Black women to get men who see them as helpers and builders. But then these men wonder why Black women are so rough, tough, and masculine. Because y'all niggas want fighters. You want warriors. You want Betty the Builders. You want Wakandan warriors. And when you get that, then all of a sudden we're too masculine. You need to make up your minds. This is why you can't listen to 99% of what Black men say. If they say one thing, do the opposite, because none of it makes sense. And this is the reason Black women are all out here confused. And women like, what's the girl's name from Martin that came up there talking about how can we stop emasculating Black men? This is where you get shit like that from.
He has to have a job. He has to have a car. He has to have a house.
Car, house, job. Nigga, that's the basics. Of course he has to have that. What the hell is going on here? This is how Black women end up with Dusties. This is how.
He has to have money in the bank. He has to have muscles.
Yeah, money in the bank to take care of a family.
You don't really want a man to come in your life who's already great. That's very dangerous, because when the man is already great, he has everything. He doesn't need you. That's why he will abuse you.
See, and I'm not even, look, we know that with, money and power, men can use that to manipulate and abuse. But that is what should be said. Not that you should just avoid those men altogether. No, the message should be vet all men. And if he's abusive, leave him alone. Abusive men come in every tax bracket. They come in every socioeconomic class. Yeah, Tashina Arnold, that's her name. She asked how we can stop emasculating Black men. And the reason why you get women who are all confused like that is because there's so many mixed messages out here coming from Black men. Black men assist in their own emasculation. They create emasculating music, talking about how they want their women to be independent and how she, Independent. Webby, he made a whole song about it. What's the other one? Neo, Miss Independent. They want independent women until those women become, a little bit too masculine for them. Then all of a sudden they don't want them anymore. They create movies, other entertainment where they praise independent Black women, where they promote ride or die, struggle love, baby boy. That's a great example of one of those type of movies. Their favorite form of comedy is dressing up like Black women. They love to do that. I'm not saying other races of men don't do that, but Black men are real heavy with it. They love dressing up like Black women. Every time a nigga gets shot by the cops, they're encouraging and praising both Black men and little Black girls, by the way, or Black women and little Black girls. They're encouraging them to fight on the front lines. They're encouraging them to buck against the system and buck against white men and the police, right? But you want feminine women? No, you want soldiers. That's what you want. So they do all of this to assist in the masculinization of Black women and the emasculinization of Black men. And then they act like they had nothing to do with it after, it goes bad. It's easier to put most of the blame on Black women than to do the actual work with other Black men and hold themselves accountable. All this talk that black men are doing about black women emasculating them and refusing to submit, it's being weaponized against black women, and it's being used to manipulate us, because the traditional black man, by and large, does not exist, y'all. He does not exist. It's a fallacy. And it's not up to women to teach men and little black boys how to be traditionally masculine. That's up to the men. So black women, stop allowing black men to blame you for their emasculation and their failures to be men. Let me see here. TJ says it's not a coincidence that the attack on educated / high earning black women increased when black women started out earning black men. This is just misplaced competition. Yeah, it is. And black women, you also need to stop trying to compete with them, because some of y'all do compete with men when it comes to their money and stuff and their careers. I'm not about to try to flex on anybody, oh, I got this and I got that. I'm not about to try to flex on a nigga, because that, to me, that is the quickest way you open yourself up to being taken advantage of. That's how you attract a bunch of opportunistic men. When you start trying to compete with them. And stop agreeing to these role reversed relationships that, black men present to you, because it rarely ever ends well. Stop giving it to the gold digger shaming tactics. Explore your options with traditionally masculine men. Stop choosing effeminate men to have children with, because this is what you get. You get a community of men who basically blame you for all of their failures. That's what you get. And these men are basically telling you they can't teach your sons to be masculine. So why produce with them? Why give them any sons? Why give them any children? Only give children to traditionally masculine men that can teach your boys how to be men. And all that shit, I can hear it now, talking about, oh, well, we need to dismantle the gender norms and gender fluidity. Fuck all that shit. And oh, we need to stop being classist. I get it. I totally get it. But it's usually the women who suffer the most when they engage in hypogamy and they start talking about this anti-classist stuff and gender fluidity, and they have children with these non-traditional men. So I will never encourage otherwise. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to do it. And I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, what I just said, but if you want marriage and children, y'all need to stop trying to apply all of these gender fluidity definitions, different definitions of masculinity to your personal relationships. Because I notice when heterosexual black women who are having, when we have these conversations, the feminists, the LGBT, y'all always want to jump in and start giving your completely ambiguous definitions of masculinity that don't truly benefit black women in the long run. They just don't. I'm talking about heterosexual black women who want heterosexual black men who want marriage and want families. That shit does not work out for them. And I'm sorry, but you cannot change most black women and women in general. You can't change our desire for traditionally masculine men, because a lot of that shit is biological. Not every single thing is a social construct. And if you notice, y'all gonna call me homophobic. I don't give a shit, because somebody needs to say it. Not enough of y'all are saying it, or you're too scared to say it. Even some of the LGBT who always jump into these conversations and y'all start talking about, oh, archaic masculinity, and this is just not right, and this is so restrictive, all of that shit. Guess what? They also like traditionally masculine men, especially the trans women. They're not telling you that, though. They love traditionally masculine, toxic, masculine men. They like that shit, just like you do. They're competing with you for the same men. And you're sitting there trying to let them tell you and try to convince you to date effeminate men that you don't want to date, when they don't even want to date them. Come on now. Stop playing. I've been around too many of y'all. Y'all can't fool me. I got a bunch of gay friends. I know how y'all get down. Obviously not all of you, but I know how many of you get down. So please don't let them fool you or try to gaslight you into wanting feminine men or, gender fluid men. Many of them don't even want them. Many of them don't even want broke men and trying to call you classes. They don't even want to date broke men. So guess what? You don't have to want them either. If they don't want feminine, broke men, you don't have to want them either. Stop apologizing for that shit. You can like what you like too. You can have preferences too. So continuing on the topic of non-traditional Black men, I want to play a couple of clips that further proves my point that these men are not traditional. This first clip, I'm sure many of you have seen it. This is from a woman on TikTok. So let's hear what she has to say.
White women love Black men because of the power dynamic, because white women have never had any power over men in their lives. Because obviously all the white men in their lives have always had all the power over them. So white women have whiteness over Black men. And obviously to be in any sort of control feels good, especially when you're used to never being in control. White women feel safe with Black men, not only because of the hypermasculinity that they believe Black men exhibit, but because of the whiteness and power they hold over Black men. This is why also white women can still be racist and be with Black men. And be conservative white women will be married to a Black man. And this is why white women love their Black sons and hate their Black daughters. Black sons give you access to the patriarchy, they give you power, whereas Black daughters don't.
And I don't know about y'all, but what she said, it really rang true for most of the Black men in my family anyway, who are with white women. Most of the white women I know who are with Black men, including the Black men in my family, are making the most money. And they are pretty much controlling the relationship. Yet, when these men get online, let them tell it. These women are so submissive. They're so traditional. They're snatching up the hordes of traditional Black men. And so it's very interesting to hear this woman say that, so we could actually hear it from the horse's mouth and we could get some insight, in which I think we already kind of knew this, but it's very interesting to hear her say it. And what this actually made me think of is two different stories. One is where that one guy, I think his name was Mano or something, he said he likes slave play with white women. So I think some Black men, they actually get off on white women controlling them. And then the other story it reminded me of is the Toby Abamseli situation, where his snow bunny, I got to censor my words, she unalived him. That's what everybody else is saying now. That shit sounds so goofy, but yeah, the snow bunny unalived him, right? And so it seems like a lot of these women are just really good at performing submission, which is a performance anyway. But, I think they're really good at performing submission on most Black men because they're not truly traditional men in the first place, And then when they start kind of feeling emasculated like they do with Black women, like they say they do with Black women, then they try to assert themselves in an area where the white woman may want control. And that seems to be where all hell breaks loose. That seems to be, when they start getting into it and they start fighting and then somebody unalives the other person. And that may be why these unions, with Black men and non-Black women, that may be why they have a higher divorce rate than most, other interracial relationships. I don't know. It's just something to think about. And then this other clip I have, this is from, pretty sure some of y'all saw this. I don't remember who sent me this, but right on. But this is from the TLC channel, and it's a story about a Black man, as you can see in the middle. He doesn't work. He's with two white women, as you see on each side. Those are his wives, I guess, his girlfriends. I don't know. He does not work, and they pay the bills while he stays home and he does work around the house. He's a house dad. Yeah, they're sister wives. He's a house dad. So let's hear what he has to say.
I am a stay-at-home dad. In our household, the women are the breadwinners. That's the way we run things here. That's the way we like it to be structured.
Nick is a trophy husband, if you will.
We prefer it that way, right. Honestly. I would go crazy if I was at the house all the time. And I pride myself on being a breadwinner, and Jenny's right there with me.
I am a manager at an organization company. Jen is management in an IT company.
Jen and I make more than enough money by ourselves. We don't need that. We don't want that.
Let me just say this right quick. If you look at a chessboard, the king doesn't really move much because he just moves a square at a time. Meanwhile, the queen, she's all over the board, okay? The queen's got all the power. The king just kind of holds court.
This nigga here, this nigga's a pimp. Like, he's in the best situation of his life, honey. This is probably like 95, and I'm being generous, 95% of black men's wildest fantasy. This is what they want, y'all. But they're somewhere talking about how they're so traditional. Y'all don't realize that so many black men out here would love this. I don't know what they consider to be cooperative wives who pay all the bills and they get to stay home and be house dads. They would love this. They would love this. And so, you know, when I heard that clip from the girl before this one, and then I see them now, you know, it does give some credence to what she was saying. Like, okay, well, do some white women want to be in control of black men? Is that why they date black men? Because they feel they're easier to control? I think there is some validity in that. I definitely think there's some validity to that. So I don't think, you know, these women are as submissive as black men make them out to be. I really don't. And I'm not saying that all black men are this extreme. Mileage may vary. And then if you actually go to this video, y'all, look in the comment section and see who is in the comment section praising this man and encouraging him. And, oh, well, you know, I mean, if it works for them, who am I to judge? You know, I mean, shit. That's his life. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it worked for him, then it's cool. You know, they love this shit. They love it. But then, you know, you listen to the manosphere and they'll have you thinking that, I don't know, 99% of black men are just these, you know, traditional men that can't find cooperative women, that can't find enough feminine traditional women. Whatever. You're lying. The true traditionalist, if you even want to use that word, I mean, what is traditional now? You know, it's so different now. But like, if you even want to use that word, like, the true traditionalists in the community are in a minority. They're the extreme minority of the black community, both genders. Mahogany says the women are married to each other and he is not married to neither one of them. He is technically disposable. Yeah. He likes it that way. Look at his face. Look at him just grinning. He loves this shit. He don't give a fuck about none of that. Like, he don't care about being disposable. He don't care about none of that. He is just living his best life, honey. He is living his best life. Let's close out with a clip from Iman Shumpert. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Now, this clip, for obvious reasons, didn't go viral like the TD Jakes clips. But let's listen to what Iman had to say.
Listen, a nigga with money don't want you to listen. I'm gonna give this out to all women worldwide. Niggas with money don't want you paying no. We don't care for you to do that. We not coming to get you for no bread. If you do that and you get your own bread on the side, we gonna clap our hands for it. We gonna smile about it. We gonna be proud of it. We don't need you to do it. That's the advantage of picking us. We don't want you for that. We want to honestly.
Oh man, I cut off the part where
listen, a nigga with money don't.
Dang, I cut off the part where this dude right here, he was like Iman was trying to like basically get him to co-sign what he was saying, and this dude right here was like, speak for yourself, not me, speak for yourself. So it's like he couldn't even get a co-sign from this dude right here. So that just lets you know how rare this mentality is in this community. Like, this clip didn't go viral. This did. Where was this? Like, where was this at? And then when I saw it on a couple of the sites, like, of course, the black men were in the comment section. The overall consensus from the men was, you know, oh, well, the times we living in, women have to pay bills, and I don't mind my women paying bills, and, you know, all this stuff. So It's like, you know, they want 50-50, a 50-50 relationship dynamic. They don't want a traditional relationship dynamic, y'all. Those days are gone. You know, and my thing is this, right? That's why I said we need to call it something else. It needs to be another word for traditional. I don't know, maybe modern traditionalist, whatever they call it. If we're in, you know, the economy is the way it is, you know, we're headed toward another recession, whatever. And if most people have to work and you're in relationships where the women have to work, then stop saying that you want traditional relationships. Stop saying that then. Stop saying that, you know, you just want women to come home and take care of the house and you'll take care of the, like, stop lying about it. Contemporary, yeah. Contemporary relationships. Yeah, this is definitely like unicorn. I feel like this is like 0.5% of black men. I don't even want to give a 1%, bitch. 0.5%. Because, you know, and again, this is not popular, but you see how that TD Jakes clip spread like wildfire, and then they cut off the beginning where he was holding black men accountable. How Iman was talking, that is how traditionally masculine, high-earning men speak. All this other shit is faux traditional, faux masculinity, faux high-value babble. And you need to treat it as such and not take it as seriously.